So for the longest time, it seemed that celebrity couple Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively were one of the few that hadn't been corrupted by Hollywood. I mean, by all accounts, they seemed like they were down to earth, they were funny, and overall people you'd want in your life. I mean, I really liked Ryan Reynolds' response during the quarantine. Like when people like Gal Gadot and other out-of-touch celebrities were singing Imagine by John Lennon, a song that has lyrics like Imagine no possessions. Meanwhile, they were protected in their million-dollar mansions while many common folk were starving. Ryan Reynolds took a shot at them.
We need to work together to flatten the curve and fight off COVID-19. I think in times of crisis, I think we all know that it's the celebrities that we count on most. They're the ones who are going to get us through this. Right after healthcare workers, of course, first responders, people who work in essential services, ping pong players, mannequins, they're great. Childhood imaginary friends, sure, like 400 other types of people. Look, stay at home.
With him and Blake actually thanking healthcare workers.
Hello there.
Hello.
This is going out to the Westchester Medical, all the ER docs, nurses, support staff, everybody under that roof.
Every single person who enters that building.
You guys are superheroes. And we just want to acknowledge the incredible, unbelievable sacrifices that each and every one of you are making right now, so that me, everybody else in this country can remain as healthy as humanly possible. We're so grateful. Truly.
We just wanted you to know, just from two people in your community, but just know the outpouring of love and gratitude coming from your community. We understand the sacrifice that you guys are making, leaving your own families to be there. And you guys are superheroes every single day, but especially in times like this when there's such uncertainty, you know, we're reminded that this thing does have a beginning, middle, and end. And you guys are the ones there every day for it. And we are just so, so, so grateful.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Which, wherever you stand on the C-19 situation, in the beginning none of us really knew what it was, and so in a way it was endearing to see people like Ryan and Blake being down to earth. And beyond that, you have instances of Blake trying to bring awareness to the realities of CP.
So I'm here today because I'm a mama and I have two baby girls and I would do anything to protect them. I would literally die for them without a moment's thought. And for those of you who have children, I think you know what I'm talking about. I mean, if you think of what you would do for your child, I don't think there's anything you wouldn't ask of yourself. It got me thinking, you know, what is the value of a single child's life? And what is the value of a child's life who isn't our own? Like, what is her little life worth or his little life worth, you know? And the sexual exploitation of children is something that isn't happening rarely. It's not happening worlds away. It's happening right here and right now. So to show you guys that, while I'm talking, there's a map right here. So every time a dot shows up, that is someone that's trading or viewing child pornography right now as we speak. So that's how prevalent this is. I didn't really know what child pornography was. You know, we all sort of have an idea of it, and I was afraid to ask as a mother, you know, because it would be very painful to hear. It is disturbing, and I want to warn you, but I feel it's my responsibility to tell you guys because it is the truth, and I believe if we all knew this, we would dedicate much more of ourselves to stopping it. When I asked what child pornography entailed, yes, it's nude images of boys and girls under the age of 18. But now, because of high-speed internet, it's also videos very prominently, and videos of kids, and by kids I mean prepubescent, visibly prepubescent. These pedophiles are desensitized. Because of that, the kids are getting younger, and the content is getting that much more devastating. So when this law enforcement officer told me this, I asked him how young are the young kids he's seeing, and he told me infants. And I have a 6-month-old baby.
I mean, here, she's really trying not to break down and cry.
So I said, what does that mean? You know, like, what does an infant mean? And he said, with the umbilical cord still attached. You know, unspeakable things happen, but I'm, again, going to speak about them because I feel like if these kids are experiencing this, the least that they deserve is for us to hear what is actually happening to them. No, it's not just touching. There is penetration. There is extreme torture and bondage. There's bestiality. There is incest. I mean, they said you think of it, anything you could think of, it's out there and it's being traded, and it's 30 to 50 million files a day being traded that we know of. You know, our children are at risk. You may know this person. It may be a doctor. It may be a coach. And ideal victims are young children because they can't speak up. and they don't make great witnesses if they do. Only 10% of children actually do speak up once they've been abused. So what's incredible about the Child Rescue Coalition is that they are proactive. They don't wait for these children to speak up. They can identify these pedophiles. They can see the IP address that's trading this child pornography. They don't know, there's no privacy issues, there's no big brothering. They see the IP address of who's trading these files, and they give that to law enforcement. Law enforcement can knock on that person's door and see if that person has access to a child, because the average abuser abuses between 50 and 100 children in their lifetime. Per person, per abuser, and the average person that views child pornography, between 55 and 90% of people viewing it are actually hands-on abusers or will become abusers. And I was told the story of an oncologist, a pediatric oncologist, who was raping his children with cancer by the hundreds. And there was a nurse who was working with children with mental and physical disabilities. And when he was caught, they asked him how many children he abused. And he looked outside the window at the snow and said, "How many snowflakes are there outside?" So this is so prevalent, and I want you guys to know this, and I want it to resonate with you, and I want you to see that the Child Rescue Coalition, in just 3 years, has found 9,000 predators so far. They have saved 2,000 children. Thank you to all of you who spent your afternoon sitting here, listening to all of us talk about these things that are really painful. And I just think, I just feel really grateful to have the opportunity to speak for the people that aren't able to speak for themselves. And I know that all of us feel that way today. So thank you for valuing everyone's life, for these children's lives. Thank you. Sorry for talking for so long.
Things like this really made me gain respect for people like Blake Lively, because not many other celebrities would use their platform to talk about important things like this. And so for the most part, it seemed like her and her husband Ryan were relatively drama-free, until her most recent film, It Ends With Us, which is an adaptation of the book written by Colleen Hoover, and stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, and is also directed by Baldoni, and has Lively as a producer, as Baldoni and his production company Wayfarer Studios had purchased the rights to the book in 2019. And apparently Ryan Reynolds had written some scenes from the movie which Baldoni wasn't thrilled about. And Ryan had defended his position, as he apparently saved the film, felt that he had every right to stick up for his wife, especially when it comes to a project she is so passionate about. He saw a script in need of help, and together with Blake, they made sure it was not only brilliant, but reflective of what the story is about, which ultimately Justin Baldoni was the director. Now, I did hear online that Blake and Ryan gave some funding for the movie, so maybe that does give them a level of creative control. But remember that Blake did cast herself as one of the main roles, so maybe at that point, just let Justin do his thing. Now, a key detail is that the plot of It Ends With Us revolves around a relationship with Justin and Blake's character that turns into DV. And according to sources, there was a fracture during the post-production process, partly because Lively allegedly commissioned her own cut of the film from Deadpool and Wolverine editor Shane Reed. Which I realize there's a lot of moving parts, but please bear with me, I promise it'll all come together. Because on top of that, people started noticing that many cast members weren't following Baldoni on Instagram, and that they didn't appear in photos together at the premiere, as this TikToker pointed out.
There is clearly something going on with this movie. So they were at the premiere last night. They're all still not interacting with Justin. Mind you, he's the producer, director, and a main character. Oh, best believe I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Everyone was pictured separately. Blake. We've got Ryan and her other co-star, Brandon. We've got Ryan and Blake. We even have Hugh Jackman, who has been on a press tour with Ryan for the past couple months. This almost feels like an extension of the Deadpool and Wolverine promo tour.
Which also something to note is that around the same time both Deadpool and Wolverine and It Ends With Us premiered, both topping the box office at 54 million and 50 million respectively.
If you look at Justin's Instagram story, it's only pictures of himself on the red carpet with his wife doing interviews alone, and then a group shot with, all of his friends. That's Andy Grammer, who's good friends with Justin. And that's his podcast co-host. Speaking of that, something's going on with these two as well. These two are the co-hosts of the Man Enough podcast. Now, Liz was at the premiere last night, and I watched her stories too, and it was very interesting. Here's her there. She's only tagging Blake Lively. Seriously, there's no mention anywhere of Justin. She literally has tagged her 3 times, and then had a photo with a couple friends. Those were the 4 pictures she posted from the premiere.
Even though, again, Liz and Justin do a podcast together, and more importantly, Justin is the brains behind the movie. Now, where it all comes together is when you hear how Justin spoke of the film during the press tour.
When you love something so much and when you're touched and moved by something, like as deeply as I was by this book, it just kind of comes naturally. Yes, this is a movie about love and hope, but that we don't shy away from the issue. I think all of the scenes showcasing gender-based violence, I think that was very hard for me. I almost had to step out of my body. There were a lot of times, even thinking about it is hard. There were a lot of times where I would have to go privately into a room and just cry or shake it out and try to get him out of me and that energy out of me, because it's too real. And there are too many people that are the real-life Lily Blooms of the world that have to deal with that every single day.
And I love how he's not only putting himself in the shoes of the character that he has to play, but also the real-life victims. That shows such a big heart.
And I wanted it to be as real as possible, and yet it was very hard to shoot those scenes. But luckily, the only way it was possible is, I had an incredible intimacy coordinator. I had an incredible stunt coordinator. Both of them were women. And then there was Blake, who, honestly, between those three women, they really were the ones choreographing and navigating all of those scenes, because I needed to play Ryle. And in those moments, to be perfectly frank, I really wasn't the director. It was those women that were in charge. And from the beginning, I wanted all the intimate scenes to be from a female gaze, and I never wanted my bias to potentially, interject and go into the film. So I kind of stepped back and felt all the things and allowed myself to do the work, and shook it off as best I could.
And also acknowledging the fact that he doesn't have the lived experience, and letting the ladies kind of take the driver's seat while he takes the back seat. That shows so much care for the integrity of the movie. Now, it pains me to talk about this because I really love Blake Lively, but unfortunately the way that she behaved during this process was very much different.
I'm going to jump into this, and Blake, I'm going to start with you. Most of us, if we're lucky enough to run into a celebrity in public, we only have a few moments to maybe speak with you guys. But for people who see this movie, who relate to the topics of this movie on a deeply personal level, they're really going to want to talk to you. This movie is going to affect people, and they're going to want to tell you about their lives. So if someone understands the themes of this movie, comes across you in public, and they want to really talk to you, what's the best way for them to be able to talk to you about this? How would you recommend they go about it?
Like asking for my address or my phone number or my location share. Or I could just location share you, and then we could
And I love how the co-star Brendan Sklenar is like, what the f*** am I doing? Like, Blake, you knew exactly what he was trying to ask you. Stop trying to play those semantics. There's a time and place for that. Now, thankfully, eventually she did answer the question on somewhat of a serious level.
Yeah, what's been beautiful about this movie is that, unfortunately, we all know at least someone, but we normally know, a lot more than some ones. We know some manys who have experienced this. And it's the beauty of this has been to see people and to see this movie alongside women who haven't experienced this, thank goodness, go, whoa, I fell in love too. I saw the red flags, but I ignored them, and I see why. And the story is told with such empathy that I feel like this movie can be healing, it can be a cautionary tale, and it can also it can be inspiring. So I think that the movie itself and Colleen's work itself does that work. And for anyone, if anyone ever comes up to you and says that your work meant something to them outside of just having that collective experience in a theater where you laugh and cry and feel together, what a blessing. The fact that we get to do this and it gets to mean something is yeah, it's really significant.
So maybe it could have been written off as just trying to clear the tension a little bit, but it wasn't a one-off, because other times she seemed to miss the plot.
I think that you are so much, and not to minimize it anyway, but you're so much more than just a survivor or just a victim. Well, that is a huge thing. You are a person of multitudes, and what someone has done to you doesn't define you. You define you, and what you have in you and what you're capable of and what you have done and are doing and will do is so much bigger than anything anyone else can do to you.
Which a trauma therapist called out as being dismissive.
Is anyone else seeing all the press that Blake is doing for this movie and just recognizing how completely out of touch it is? And as a therapist who specializes in trauma, the reason this response is just so troublesome is it just completely misses the mark on understanding what trauma does to the mind, body, and soul. Anyone who has experienced domestic violence or works with individuals who have or knows someone has knows it is not just something that you can choose to not be defined by. Well, we love that in theory, right? That we can just turn it off and be fine. That's not how trauma works. And of course, if this is part of your story and you resonate with this too, of course there is more life and beauty and truth and deepness in who you are. But I think that Blake is not choosing to combine them. She's choosing to separate them, saying domestic violence happened. Okay, let's push it aside because you're all these beautiful things. When in reality, trauma work and trauma healing allows us to combine what has happened in the past with who you truly are in the present to give you this full rounded picture of healing and truth and who you are. And it's like she just missed the entire point of the book, and I haven't seen the movie yet, I'm about to. But even like, look how she reacts to him asking this question.
Survivors of generational trauma and domestic abuse are going to see this film. I'm curious, what is the
shifting eyes, with the tongue, it is all this body's way of saying, I'm annoyed and I'm kind of over this question and I'm really ready to get on with it.
Which she wouldn't be wrong, because for a lot of the tour, Blake only seemed to care about unrelated things, like her dress.
Well, this is Britney's Versace dress, 2002, the butterfly dress. It meant so much to me because of what she meant to me. Like, she was just somebody who represented love and beauty and youth and hard work and determination and strength, and she was in touch with her sexuality and her delicacy, and she just sort of represented it all. And, you know, telling her own story the way she did and the way she's about to with her biopic, it just, like, I don't know, Britney has just meant so much to me forever. I'm a forever Britney stan. And so when this dress was available, I was like, yes, I need it.
Flowers.
What is your favorite reason to give or receive flowers? For me, it's being in love, but I'd love to know what it is for you.
Just random.
Just
random
because?
Flowers. Just a flower, and you're like, what? What is this? My husband does that sometimes, with just like a note and a flower.
Taking the opportunity to promote her Betty Buzz flower theme, Betty Bloom, which for those who don't know, Betty Buzz is Blake Lively's sparkling beverage brand. And she even promoted the movie in a floral-themed way.
Hello, Blake Lively here. Colleen Hoover. And It Ends With Us is in theaters now, so grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it.
And one thing that made not only her, but also Ryan look like narcissists was Ryan doing a lighthearted interview with Blake's co-star, Brandon Sklenar.
Okay. Oh, God. It's cool. It's not every day the husband gets to interview his wife's love interest in a film. It's kind of crazy.
I don't remember seeing this on the schedule.
Dive in, shall we? So I saw you posing in a photo with Mrs. Reynolds, and I'm sorry, what do you call her? Do you guys have a nickname or something? Okay, no, just so it's Mrs. Okay. Anyway, I saw this photo. It was very suggestive. How do you explain that? Is it genetics? You have some sort of like low-angle squat routine to pop that region in that way? I mean, what's going on here, man? Are you smuggling pumpkins? Got a couple of small pumpkins there? Jesus Christ, my heart is beating like crazy right now. This reminds me of when I went on that meth journey, confront my inner child.
And I was on a meth journey. I think you mean like ayahuasca, like South American plant known for its medicinal benefits. Definitely not meth. You should not be doing a meth journey.
I've been on a meth journey for about 6 months now.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but you're probably going to die.
I don't feel well.
You don't look well.
And this was met with people calling them out for having any lack of self-awareness, trying to make everything funny, but it's so cringy. Another person saying this is about DV, what the is this? And one of my favorite comments was, the irony that the man who played the abuser, seeming to be the only one to continually remember this is a story about abuse, should not be lost on Blake, and somehow it is. And it's unfortunate because she had the opportunity to shed light on a very important issue. I mean, she's done it before. And objectively speaking, she is much more well known than Justin Baldoni, so suffice it to say, she missed the mark. But guys, that's not all. As a Norwegian journalist whose name I don't want to get wrong, released a video titled The Blake Lively Interview that made me want to quit my job.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
Now, without getting too sidetracked, for context, that interview was from 2016 when Blake was pregnant. And after Blake made that sarcastic, congrats on your bump, the interviewer revealed that she's infertile, saying, to be honest, it hurts because I obviously wasn't pregnant and could never get pregnant.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are
You
you
like
guys-
the movie? Are you a Woody Allen fan?
I love most of his movies, and this one was so like visually amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, working in digital.
Everyone wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would.
I love Jesse's suits and how
that's what I'm saying.
he
His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know,
Corey's
everybody.
wardrobe was
I know.
gorgeous.
He's
Those
so
high-waisted pants.
He's so great.
I wish men
And
wore
sorry,
high-waisted
too.
pants
I
like that
know.
still.
Me
Or
too.
the father with his tank top in
Oh,
bed.
it's so
Just
good.
like it's just like
Did you
that.
catch
You could
the,
feel
the
it.
tablecloth on the light in the Italian restaurant when they eat spaghetti?
I didn't
and
notice that. No.
That there's
Yeah,
so
I
much
feel like-
warmth.
Oh my god, I feel really bad for the interviewer. She's clearly trying to be part of the conversation, engage, and they're having their own sidebar conversation. She feels so left out. And if you watch the entire interview, which I will link, a lot of it was Blake and co-star Parker kind of talking amongst themselves and not really including the interviewer. It comes across as extremely narcissistic and gives that Mean Girls vibe. And if it was because of the baby bump comment, I fail to understand what the issue was. It didn't seem, at least from my perspective, that the interviewer had any malicious intentions. And so this whole ordeal has really changed a lot of people's perspective on Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds from this sort of wholesome, pure, sort of innocent couple. Now, does this mean that they're monsters who need to be canceled? No, absolutely not. It just means that they're flawed and fallible, like everyone else, and should serve as a reminder that we should never idolize these celebrities. And I've said it before, that people can be redeemed, and Blake Lively is no exception to that rule. And so hopefully she takes the time to mend the fences with Justin and also to self-reflect. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, hopefully I've earned a subscription. Here's some videos for you to watch in the meantime. Until next time, peace out.